Welcome to another episode of Stick Shift Stories. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a deep look at the S197 2005 through 14 Ford Mustang. We want to know, is this generation of Mustang any good, and should you get one? Stay tuned because this is going to be a super interesting episode on one of America's most iconic vehicles. The Mustang's history dates all the way back to 1964, but the fifth generation's older brother is the SN95 Mustang, built from 1994 through 2004. Once the 1999 New Edge SN95 Mustang was put into production, Ford's engineering and design team started working on the fifth generation Mustang, aka the S197. Pre-production sketches show that the Mustang went through several design studies before being penned with its final look. And when you design a car as iconic as the Ford Mustang, you really have to consider all the different design aspects to come up with a holistic look. And these sketches and clay models shown here really start to give us an idea of the streamlined look that included many of the S197 signature touches. These include the hockey stick curves running down the profile, the rectangular grille with integrated fog lights, and the glass greenhouse. The taillight design was also revised many times over, as evidenced by these clay models with different taillight designs. The public was given a look at the new Mustang's design direction with the introduction of the Mustang GT and convertible concept cars shown at the 2003 North American International Auto Show. The following year, at the same auto show, Ford revealed the look of the Mustang as drawing inspiration from the 1964 through 1970 Mustangs, and management called the final look retro-futuristic with bold American styling that was unmistakably a Mustang and authentically American. According to Jay Mays, Ford's Group VP of Design at the time, we weren't just redesigning a car, we were adding another chapter to an epic. The exterior look of the 2005 Mustang was very well received. It had a look that was powerful, brawny, and invoked memories of Mustangs from long ago. The profile of the Mustang had a rake that made the car look like it was moving when standing still. The combination of long hood, short deck, along with the C-scoops on the side and galloping horse in the middle of the grille certainly gave the Mustang a sense of occasion. Additionally, the close-coupled greenhouse, hunched shoulders, and aggressive flares added to the American muscle look. Additionally, to get a decidedly rear-wheel drive look, Ford moved the front wheels forward, reducing the front overhang by 4.6 inches compared to the 2004 model. The look was 4.4 inches longer, 1.4 inches taller, and almost an inch wider than the outgoing 2004 model. The Mustang V6 and GT models were made to be clearly distinguishable. The GT offered a more aggressive nose with circular fog lamps in the black grille, while the lower fascia had an upright look with incorporated air dam. The V6 Mustang offered an egg crate grille and swept back lower fascia that incorporated horizontal vents. The GT had body color lower rocker panel extensions to create a planted and aggressive look. GTs also had a rear spoiler and cutouts on each side of the rear bumper for the dual exhaust pipes. Both models boasted tri-bar tail lamps and a chrome Mustang badge centered in the rear face of the deck lid. From 1964 to 2009, over 9 million customers had purchased a Mustang. To keep sales strong and fend off competition from the then new 2010 Camaro, Ford redesigned the Mustang for the 2010 model year. Except for the fastback roofline, the exterior sheet metal was all new for 2010. The revised front featured new headlights, lower fascias, fenders, and grille. They were all joined by a power dome hood with a muscle car-like appearance. Front and rear fenders featured taut sculpted wheel flares, while the rear featured aggressively angled rear corners and a sculptured deck lid. There was an optional rear view camera incorporated into the spoiler available on some models. The new taillight design featured 3 LED bulbs firing sequentially from the inside for turn indication. Redesigned yet again for the 2013 model year, this revision sported a more aggressive design with a prominent front grille. The GT model now featured functional heat extractors on the hood that were specifically placed and designed to help move air and keep the engine cool. Rocker panels were now body color, which made the look of the vehicle more cohesive. For the rear, a new high-gloss black panel surrounded the new taillight design. The taillights were now a smoked appearance that matched the more purposeful look up front. When you take into consideration all of the different design elements, this generation of Ford Mustang definitely had that pony car look. Additionally, the design still looks good today, which is a testament to the designers at Ford. So overall, the S197 Mustang was definitely a strong design. The Mustang was said to have benefited by Ford's renewed interest in designing a world-class interior. During the S197 design phase, Ford tripled their investment in interior design, and the overall look of the 2005 through 2009 dash is pretty nice. In fact, Larry Erickson, a Mustang chief designer, said that this is a $30,000 interior in a $20,000 car. The dashboard sported a nice instrument cluster that was dominated by circular chrome-ringed speedometer and tachometer gauges. Inside of the speedo and tach rested a comprehensive set of gauges that included fuel level, battery, oil temperature, and oil pressure. All of these gauges sported a classic Mustang font, and for the first time on a production vehicle, there was an optional color configurable instrument cluster with more than 125 different color backgrounds. Similar to the 1967 model, the 2005 steering wheel had 3 spokes with a black center hub marked by the horse and tricolor bars logo. The chrome-ringed circular air vents were aligned precisely with the gauges. The center stack has an ergonomic design with easy-to-reach climate and radio controls, and automatic cars were equipped with a cool T-handle top shift knob. Along with the exterior revisions for the 2010 model year, Ford also gave the interior a thorough facelift. Design of the one-piece instrument panel was all new and featured soft touch TPO, which was thermoplastic olefin, fully encompassing available genuine aluminum finished panels. The air registers in the middle of the dash were now square, while the 2 outermost registers were still round. The center stack featured an electronic finish while housing the climate and radio buttons in order to accomplish an integrated look. The steering wheel was revised, and even though it maintained the 3-spoke design, it was updated. The team at Ford also fitted the interior with more sound deadening materials in select areas to help with road noise, especially at high speed or when traveling on rough roads. And the interior now boasted more soft touch materials and an overall higher level of quality of materials. The Mustang was offered with a variety of V6 or 8-cylinder engine options. But the most important thing when buying a Mustang is to have enough power to be able to do this. And power they did have. The entry-level engine was a 4-liter 6-cylinder engine that produced 210 horsepower and 240 pound-feet of torque. This engine was used in the Mustang range from 2005 until 2010. The star of the show in the Mustang range was the 4.6-liter 3-valve modular all-aluminum V8 engine. This powerhouse of an engine produces 300 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. The Mustang is able to produce 300 horsepower from 281 cubic inches through the use of a single overhead cam 3-valve cylinder head design with variable cam timing. This new design gives the engine a higher compression ratio than previously was possible with regular 87 octane gasoline. produced in limited numbers, the 2008 through 2009 Mustang Bullitt produced 315 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque from the same 4.6-liter V8 found in the Mustang GT. The GT essentially received this revised Bullitt engine for the 2010 model year and also made 315 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. There was also a Shelby GT500 available with a 5.4-liter supercharged V8 engine from 2007 to 2009 that produced 500 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. And if you wanted to be the king of the road, there was the GT500KR, which produced a whopping 540 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. 2011 was the year where the Mustang's engine options seriously got interesting. Take the V6 for example. It was now the 3.7-liter Duratec unit, and it made 305 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. That's 95 more horsepower than the previous 4-liter. And for the V8, we now had the 5-liter Coyote engine making a whopping 412 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque. Again, an almost 100 horsepower increase from the 2010 model year. This Coyote engine was good for a 0 to 60 mile an hour sprint in just 4.6 seconds, and it was able to do the quarter mile in 13.2 seconds at around 109 miles per hour, which is really quick. Revived for the 2012 model year, the Boss 302 Mustang was certainly special. This Mustang had a revised version of the Coyote 5-liter V8 that offered an upgraded intake system, CNC ported heads, forged rotating assembly, revised camshafts, and a high-flow intake taken from the 302R race car. This engine produced 444 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. It was mated to the MT82 manual transmission and used a 3.73 rear axle with carbon fiber plates in its limited slip differential, or had an available optional torsion differential. The GT500 continued to make excellent power. For 2010, it made 540 horsepower, and for 2011 through 2012, it made 550 horsepower. Starting for the 2013 model year, it got a revised engine design, which enabled it to make a whopping 662 horsepower and 631 pound-feet of torque. This Shelby had some serious power under the hood. For the early V6 models, the Tremec T5 5-speed manual transmission was offered, as well as the optional 5R55S 5-speed automatic transmission. Both of these transmissions had a 3.31:1 final drive ratio. The GT came with the stronger TR3650 manual transmission. For the 2005 and 2006 model year, Mustang GTs with a manual transmission had a final drive ratio of 3.55:1. But since 2007, a 3.31:1 ratio was standard with the 3.55:1 gearing available as an option. For the 2011 model year, the Mustangs got new transmissions. The V6 offered the MT82 6-speed manual, or the newly optional Ford 6R60 6-speed automatic transmission. The standard 2.73:1 limited slip rear axle was less aggressive than the previous 3.31:1 axle ratio. The GT received heavier duty versions of the V6 transmissions, including the MT82 6-speed manual and Ford's 6R80 6-speed automatic transmission. 2005, buyers were demanding a muscle car that could literally do everything. And in order to develop a well-rounded muscle car, Ford really needed to think about its suspension and driveline components. Before the release of the S197, prototypes of this Mustang logged nearly 1 million miles on streets, highways, and tracks throughout the United States, Canada, and Sweden in all types of weather to ensure that this vehicle had what it took to be a supreme muscle car. Front suspension featured a McPherson strut setup with reverse L lower control arms. A firm bushing was used and positioned at the point where the shorter forward leg of the L arm connected to the chassis, and this was to control the lateral or side-to-side motion and provide a quicker steering response. The longitudinal fore and aft movements were directed through a more soft bushing at the larger rear L-arm leg, which was helping to damp the road shocks. Isolating these road imperfections was a direct benefit of using this reverse L configuration of the control arms. The engineer's controversial decision to keep a live rear axle had to do with cost and complexity. For starters, Ford stated that if they would have implemented an independent rear suspension, it would have added $5,000 to the cost of each Mustang. Additionally, the live axle does have some benefits. It's robust enough to handle the high horsepower the engines produce, maintains a constant track, toe-in, and camber relative to the road surface, and keeps body roll under control. It's also less expensive and easier to repair while being really good for drag racing. The S197's rear suspension has a 3-link architecture with a panhard rod that provides control of the rear axle. A central torque control arm is fastened to the upper end of the differential, while trailing arms are located near each end of the axle. The lightweight tubular panhard rod is parallel to the axle and attached at one end to the body and at the other to the axle. This stabilizes the rear axle's side-to-side motion as the wheels move through jaunts and rebound. It also firmly controls the axle during hard cornering, and the shocks are now located on the outside of the rear structural rails, really close to the wheels, reducing the lever effect of the axle. The 5th generation Mustang had some really amazing options available from the factory. Take for example the Shaker 1000 sound system with 2 subwoofers built into the trunk. There was also a wide variety of different alloy wheel designs available. Generally speaking though, the GT and high horsepower models had larger wheels than the V6 equipped models. There was also an available navigation system, and the Mustang was available in a lot of cool colors. I really like Screaming Yellow and Grabber Orange. One really cool feature is this glass roof that was made available. For around $2,000, you really had the best of both worlds when it came to a coupe and convertible. If you'd like to customize your interior, the My Color customization of the gauges allowed you to choose from around 125 different colors. There was also a lot of Ford factory accessories that you could get to really customize your vehicle and make it one of a kind. Like any used vehicle, there are some common problems that you should be aware of before purchasing a 5th gen Mustang. If you're having issues with the air coming out of the vents, it could be due to the blend door actuator. The part itself isn't expensive, but replacing it might cost you a lot in labor. If you have the check charging system light illuminated on your gauges, it usually means that you need a new alternator. Setting this right shouldn't be too expensive. On the 3-valve modular V8 engine, they do sometimes have issues with the cam phaser. This requires opening up the engine and it can get expensive. Some people say that a telltale sign that you have a bad cam phaser is ticking upon startup and idle. The same engines also use a 2-piece spark plug that can break off when you are replacing them in the vehicle. There are kits out there that can help you remove the spark plug, but that should be something that you should be aware of. There can be surface rust on different areas of the undercarriage, but that's a normal occurrence and shouldn't cause any concern. There has been issues with the aluminum hoods corroding and causing the paint to flake or peel off. There was even a lawsuit that some owners placed against Ford, however, it didn't go anywhere. The convertible top corners can start to rust after time, so check those if you're looking for a convertible. Some owners with the MT82 manual transmission have filed a class action lawsuit against Ford, claiming that the transmission is defective, doesn't shift correctly, and is very jerky. So if you're looking at a 2011 or newer Mustang with a manual transmission, make sure that the transmission shifts correctly. The 4-liter V6 can suffer from broken thermostat housings. The thermostat housings are made from plastic and they can leak and break. It's recommended to replace the plastic units with an aftermarket metal one to avoid any potential issues. Do you own a 5th gen Mustang? What problems have you run into? leave a comment below and let me know. After all of this information, what's my verdict on the S197 Ford Mustang? Well, I give it an 8.5 out of 10 burnouts. It's a great muscle car with great engines, and it certainly looks nice. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you for the next video.